Well, I want to go over a video here, just present something. Not that I'm going to title this video that is Putin the Antichrist, but I'm not going to actually get into that exactly because I think there's enough other information out there that's been covered by people, biblical references, Nostradamus, and to tell you the truth, I don't believe in all that garbage. To tell you, I don't. People could criticize me about that, but I am not very much into, occult astrology, Bible prophecy, because it's too vague as to really put into what it's going to happen today. I know Bible prophecy was, said to be one thing during the bubonic plague, and any time something happened with the crop failure, even during the mini ice age, there was pull out the Bible prophecy. So I just want to put out something else here because I mentioned this actually on other videos. I actually did, not that I studied it extremely well, but I know I used to read all the articles by Major Anatoly Golitsyn, his books, Christopher Story, who was British intelligence, Zetazlar Rares, who was, now he's no longer alive. He was the Polish ambassador to Japan. He defected in 1981. Now, Major Golitsyn, this is a younger picture of him. He defected in 1961. Now, I got to say this. This guy, in his books, New Lies for Old, this was published in 1984, but it was a collection of memoranda to the CIA that basically was, well, all of it was in the 70s. I think the latest memoranda to the CIA was in 1980, and he just put them all in his book. It's not really like a novel book. It's just a collection of memoranda to the CIA. Well, it turns out in his book, he made all these different, assertions as to what the Soviet strategy would be. He basically said they're going to fall apart on purpose. He said that the Germanies would be reunited, the Berlin Wall would fall apart, there would be solidarity in Poland, with Lech Walesa. And actually, if you look at what happened with Lech Walesa and what Zetazlar Rares wrote about him, who was the former Polish ambassador to Japan, who defected in 81, he said he seemed like, well, he actually flat out said it was very unusual that, he had a lot of Soviet naval intelligence was bringing him into protest, and he could have easily been killed and all this other stuff, But I just want to kind of give you a little background on some of this stuff other than getting into, some of the biblical references. But if you really want to, like, piece it together with some real hard information, it's, man, something isn't really adding up with this deal big time. And it's not a matter of being, a Russian phobe, because that's the first thing that people accuse you of. It's just looking at reality. So Golitsyn actually predicted these things. He predicted Glasnost, the New Awakening, Perestroika, and restructuring. He also pointed out many times that, when he talked about, this book was written, I think, in 1995, the Perestroika deception, the restructuring deception. The Second October Revolution, whatever. I'm laughing because I remember there's an year of the October Revolution Street in Krasnoyarsk, Siberia, man. They got streets named after the October Revolution over there. But anyway, he pointed out, like, Major Golitsyn, former KGB, and it's common sense, though. I mean, God, you'd have to be an idiot or not. It's not to see this, because it's like when they had these widespread falling down of the Iron Curtain in his supposed revolution, what happened was all the former communists just became instant capitalists. In other words, if there was a real revolution, the people would have killed those bastards because of all the stuff they did over the decades. You know what I mean? It's like they still were in power. They just says, let's change philosophy. So isn't that a big hint that it was all contrived? Well, anyway, maybe you say that's a conspiracy. And the thing is, the libtard media at the time always freaking pointed out, oh, you're just You're just freaking being you know, a conspiracy nut that you freaking think that it was all planned. But the thing is, Golitsyn said this years before. That book was published in '84. The Berlin Wall came down in November 1989. But even though that book was published in 1984, it was a series of memoranda to the CIA. That wasn't really like a novel book. That's what it was in the book. All the memoranda to the CIA. The latest memoranda to the CIA was in 1980. So he's talking about the Berlin Wall coming down and Germany's being reunited and all this, glasnost solidarity in Poland, perestroika, 9 years before it happened. And he said it was going to happen. And he's got some really not too cool stuff for the future, because actually, the one big warning sign you're going to have that there's going to be confrontation between the East and the West is, this is supposedly what they're expecting, is total financial collapse of the West. I can't believe that the alternative media is like jumping on, like, yeah, the banksters going to get it. We're all going to get it, damn it. I don't like the total financial collapse of the West. Anyway, I'm going to get this right off of Wikipedia. I'm going to give you a real quick common sense overview on some of the stuff with Vladimir Putin. Now, I don't hate the guy or nothing, but he maybe, sometimes, I don't, I'm not going to call him the Antichrist, but, even though I'm going to title this video, is Putin the Antichrist, because I don't really buy into that stuff, but he sure is following the pattern of what Major Golitsyn talked about. And I'm going to bring up a few things up here besides that. Now, it goes on here to Wikipedia, right? So just giving you, you might say it's Western propaganda. I know, whatever. God, everything's Western propaganda. Somebody doesn't want to hear. They don't want to hear it's Western propaganda, Anyway, for 16 years, Putin was an officer in the KGB. Bing! Right there. Golitsyn was KGB. He says what the hell the freaking KGB was planning to do. In other words, fall apart on purpose so they can get, it's a ruse. In other words, playing possum, getting more freaking technology. It's actually they do better by being friends with the West and then waiting for an opportunity to strike. Bang. Now, I want to tell you also, unrelated to this Wikipedia, I know I've been reading other things way back, and I know it was it was in military circles, but, it wasn't actually the mainstream military thought of the U.S., but there was a lot of other experts that says that money that was being paid to Russia to dismantle weapons was actually being used to create more high-tech weapons. A lot of this start, I'm not going to, this doesn't go over this Wikipedia or anything, but like during a time when, for the brief time that Medvedev was president, Putin would put on a hat of prime minister and probably was controlling Medvedev like a little puppet. That was when the START treaty was ratified, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, and the Russia didn't have the money to really dismantle a lot of weapons. There was actually help coming from the West in the form of serious money to help them dismantle weapons. And the thing is, nobody really knew exactly how that money was being spent. There was a lot of allegations that the money was actually being used to develop more high-tech weapons. Russia has 50% of the enriched uranium in the world. And there's other, you can look up facts and figures on the mainstream. It'll show you how many nukes the Russians have and how many nukes the U.S. has. There's other people that say they got way more nukes than we do. Way more. I know some people say, well, it don't matter because we could destroy the world so many times over, but it's not the point, man. You don't put all your money into nukes when you got a country where a lot of people are still most people don't even drive a car. You're not even trying to build a domestic economy. You don't put all your money in nukes because you're a peaceful country, So let me put it that way. Simple one-on-one common sense. But remember, Putin was KGB for a long time. Okay? For 16 years. He was an officer in the KGB. Now, I want to go down here a little ways. Also when he was in office, August 1999, was when he really got into office the first time, from Yeltsin. Now, they could say that Yeltsin didn't know what the hell he was doing. I'm saying he did know what he was doing. I think this is all planned out. It's interesting that 1999 goes along with some of the Antichrist predictions and stuff. But, I can also tell you this, say that Antichrist stuff is true. Normally, the Antichrist guy is supposed to be popular, right? And fool the people. So, if it's true, that'd be another way Putin fits it, because he is popular. He's popular. He's fairly popular even in the West. He's fairly popular in Europe. He's popular in Russia. Well, I think he is. I don't know. Maybe those are rigged numbers, but maybe he is. Anyway, and the other thing is interesting about him is this. The ancestry of Vladimir Putin has been described as a mystery with no record surviving any ancestors of any people with the surname Putin. In other words, there's nobody around in Russia named Putin except him, his father, and his grandfather. Which makes you wonder, where the hell did this come from? Isn't that weird? I mean, I don't know what the hell to make out of that, okay? I mean, yeah, it's a conspiracy, okay? I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know. But it's just strange, okay? So, two Russian journalists speculate on a newspaper article that Putin's ancestry might have been linked to the Puyani clan, whatever that is. One of the oldest clans in Russian history. Maybe. I don't know. Somebody changed their name. But it's almost like they don't want you to know who the hell, what his ancestry really is. DNA would tell you that. Oh God, if he was Jewish, they'd freaking really have a field day. I know how YouTube is with Jewish people. They don't. It's a conspiracy. No matter what the hell you do, man. But anyway, Putin joined the KGB in '75 upon graduation. So he went, and he went to school in Leningrad. Blah blah blah. Now here's what's interesting. In 1985 to 1990, he was stationed in East Germany, Dresden, right? That was when all the stuff fell apart. In other words, the Berlin Wall formally came down in November 1989. He was right there in exact range when that happened. And I think he had a pretty high, position, too. Actually, I think they showed him in the background. He was in the audience or something when Ronald Reagan was over there giving speech or some crap, I think it was. But I don't know. It probably was. It was kind of hard to tell if it was him or not. But he could have been. I think he knew. I heard he knew Angela Merkel back then, too. But, that's a little bit of a hearsay thing. But he was there. I mean, he was right there in the range. And, the thing is, you don't know nothing about where the hell does he really come from. What is he? Where did he come from? I mean, he's like Putin. If that's an unusual name in Russia, in other words, it's just him, his father, and his grandfather, you don't know a damn thing what's going on here at all. It's almost like a major secret and a half. And, you look at what see a lot of people on YouTube, or 99.9999. I don't think anybody read Golitsyn that much, Major Golitsyn. So I've been reading that for years. So I pretty much, this is all like clicking with Putin, big time. Because the whole strategy of the Soviet Union falling apart was, per Major Golitsyn, Anatoly Golitsyn, a ploy to bring down the guard of the West. So we'll find out, man. But, there's other people actually calling Putin the Antichrist. But, if that's true, the Antichrist is supposed to be a real popular guy, So, that kind of fits, right? So, that does kind of fit. I'm not going to go over this, like, too serious, because I don't want to get a lot of people pissed off on this deal. So, the thing is, I don't really think this guy's the Antichrist, because I think this Antichrist stuff and the Nostradamus predictions and all this type of stuff, it's a bunch of hocus pocus superstition stuff to me. I'm not going to get into that, but I do understand what Major Galitzin was saying, and I understand that when somebody says something years before it happens, and they say a lot of different things years before it happened, I pay attention to them. So, so here he's the FSB director. He was on, in 1998, Yeltsin appointed Vladimir Putin the head of the FSB. So he was in the KGB for 16 years. Then he became the head of the FSB, which was a successor agency to the KGB. Actually has more power than the KGB, but it sounds like not as bad. That's the other thing. I mean, to the Western world, they make it sound like the KGB's no longer around. Yeah, we got the FSB. It's freaking got more power than the old KGB. Now, the other thing I want to mention too, everybody knows about Putin investigating all the oligarchs and throwing them out of power and all this kind of crap that helped to happen during the Yeltsin years. But a lot of people don't realize is that probably was all planned from day one. In other words, you can't throw all those people out of power, the oligarchs that were like supposedly ripping Russia off or whatever they were, I guess, but I think Putin's ripping them off too. Ripping off Russia too. But you can't throw all those people out of power unless you had the power in the first place to do so. Isn't that like common sense 101? So in other words, the guy that was the head of the FSB and the guy that was in the KGB and an officer of the KGB for 16 years had enough power to throw all those people out of office. I mean, all those oligarchs out of the country and confiscate their wealth and all this kind of garbage. Understand? So in other words, what I'm saying is, did the FSB or KGB ever relinquish power? No. So, I mean, it was almost like, hey, you tried the freaking capitalism, it didn't work, we're going back and doing it our way. But it's almost like it's not exactly communism, it's like a hybrid type of communism. But, when you got one guy that's been in power since 1999 running the country and is going to be in power probably to 2024 because he'll win another 6-year election. He's definitely going to be in power to 2018, right? He'll probably win again. God, he's been in power longer than czars as it is, so come on, really. But I think that, this whole thing is like playing out almost exactly the same as when, they talked about playing possum. Now here you're showing Putin with Chancellor Germany, Angela Merkel in March 2008. Now I know there's been rumors he knew her a long time ago too. I don't know, so it's a little more detailed rumors on that deal. But anyway, so Putin was criticized in the West and also by Russian liberals for what many observers considered a wide-scale crackdown on the media freedom in Russia, right? Which people will disagree with this, but one of the most dangerous places to be a reporter is in Russia. I mean, it's like more dangerous to be a reporter in Syria or something, but Russia's like on the top 5 in the world of dangerous places to be a reporter. It's not even that safe to be a reporter in the USA, too, sometimes, but relatively speaking, it's very safe here compared to Russia. So on October 2008, Anna P., I'll just leave it as her name, a journalist who exposed corruption in the Russian army and its conduct in Chechnya, was shot in the lobby of her apartment building. So it triggered a outcry from the Western media. Now, actually, you got to remember, the whole war with Chechnya started from I'm going to get on to something else that'll really just be patient with this. But the whole war with Chechnya started from the bombing of an apartment building that was blamed on the Chechen rebels. And when Putin went to war, attacking the Chechen rebels over the bombing an apartment building, it really helped his popularity out in Russia a lot, right? But the thing is, they found out later on the explosives that were used in an apartment building could have only come from the FSB. And guess who was head of the FSB before he was president? Putin, right? So it's almost like he's got his own false flag. And here he is with George W. Bush, and they're all buddy-buddy. I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't trust any of these guys, to tell you the truth. Now, I want to point out something else, too. If I could get down here. It's about 911. Well, I just want to tell you, though, if I can get down here, because it's a long article in Wikipedia. There's one thing. You notice how Russia today criticizes everything that goes on in the United States. The banksters are this, and the police are doing this, and Wall Street's doing that, and everything else. But one thing they do have a total hands-off policy on is 911. In other words, you ever hear Russia today going out there exposing 911 as a false flag and all that? Nah, not in a million years, man. And you know why that is? Because they're pretty much all in cahoots with each other. You won't hear any of their announcers or any of their people in RT talking about it. And Putin's always been around with all the people, Berlusconi. And I can tell you, Putin's got like a respect for the Italian mafia, because I saw some words he said about him, and I was like, man, you're right in with the boys. Bush and Putin in 2007. I'll tell you, man. I don't know why people think this guy is like so squeaky clean. I can't believe it, man. I can't believe it. But right now, what's going on with a lot of sanctions and the oil prices going down, it's like actually forcing his hand. Knowing the psychology of Putin, I think, he's like one of these guys. I'm not going to lose money. He'd push the nuclear buttons, man, if he really got cornered really bad. And that's what I think he's trying. I think that's what the powers that be, the New World Order, is actually pushing for. So, in a way, he's not exactly the Antichrist, but he's going to be the catalyst and one of the major players in some things that's, I don't like to put out the doom and gloom, but I think it's true. It's going to be one of the things that's actually going to bring out some of the worst things that could possibly happen. And, Major Golitsyn talked about, this was all planned. But, one thing I always thought about when Major Golitsyn said is one thing he probably left out is I think this is all planned in coordination with the New World Order elitists in the West, too. In other words, they want the West to financially collapse, so people will accept a type of hybrid communism with a human face, because they're gonna have they'll just cave in. You know what I mean? They'll say, "Hey, we want to have our easy life, so we'll accept it." So, but the one thing it's really quite obvious though about him too, Putin, is his wealth. I know a lot of people say, no, he doesn't have that much money. I'm thinking, come on. I think, one of the things they said he has a lot of connections to is the Swiss-based trading firm Gunvor, which is actually based in Cyprus. And the reason it's based in Cyprus is because Cyprus is like a tax haven, especially for capital gains on trading commodities. And, supposedly he's got it between like 50 billion and 70 billion in wealth. Now, what's interesting, he just got divorced, and the wife, what is her name? Ludmilla. I'm probably saying her name way wrong. Sorry, but she was, of course, with Bush. Laura Bush in 2003. She, basically disappeared for so many months. And, people were wondering what happened to her. Is like, what'd she do? Go to Siberia or something? And it turned out she's turned up again, and she's all smiling, and then they had an amiable divorce. And I think Putin got tired of some of her astrological predictions, and that would drive me crazy too. But but I have to tell you though that it's almost like he's got so much power that he's basically erasing her history that he was ever married to her off the official Putin autobiography site on the government. It's like she's gone, man. Plus, what did he pay for divorce? He didn't pay nothing like Rupert Murdoch did. Rupert Murdoch had to pay $1.5 billion to his wife, $100 million cash. Putin, nah. I don't know what the hell happened. I mean, why'd she agree to it? Because he's a dictator and she'd probably get killed, That's probably why she agreed to it. But she seemed to be and very amiable and smiling and stuff for the press, so I don't know what the heck. I don't know. Maybe they put her in front of a strobe light and told her, you will be happy and you will agree to a divorce, and she came out and said, oh, okay. They probably programmed her for all I know. That's what I think, anyway. That's my conjecture. So, anyway, Rupert Murdoch, take some notes. You would have saved yourself $1.5 billion. But anyway, unconfirmed claims by some Russian opposition politicians and journalists allege that Putin secretly possesses a large fortune, as much as $70 billion, via successful ownership of stakes in a number of Russian companies. I think so, because basically anytime, somebody, who's the state? Putin's the state. Basically, anybody gets investigated, that's competition to him, especially if they're going to try to run for president. They'll investigate him and throw him in jail and say you did something wrong and take all your money, and it goes to where? Him? So, and here you got Putin and his wife in New York City at the service for the victims of the September 11, 2001 911 attacks. And this is one thing you notice that RT has a total hands-off policy on. They don't say nothing on that. Oh, they could be, but they won't. Because they know the rule book. The rule book, well, actually, the rule book is they're both working on the same team, man. So, I mean, I guess you really can't pull Putin. Actually, in a way, though, he's going to be one of the catalysts that's going to really start, I think, something pretty bad, And we'll see what happens, though, because, I'm not pulling the strings. I personally would not be playing a game where Putin is, being squeezed so much financially. Actually, the way I'd be playing the game with Ukraine, I'd make sure the Ukrainian army had all the best stuff in the world. Because the one way to really wake up to the fact that there's a war going on in Ukraine with Russian troops and he's sending them there is to send them back in body bags. That'll do it. Oh, that'll do it. And that's actually happening right now. In other words, Putin doesn't care about that, though. He don't care about that. But the Russian people do. But, when you're hurting Putin's money, he ain't going to like that, man. Because I tell you one thing, it's not mentioned in this article, but there's one thing that going all the way back, even during the KGB time, the KGB even acknowledged it, was that this guy had a appetite for the finer things in life. Way back when. And, one way to piss him off, it's not so much, I tell you, it's money. It's money. Money. Other things, too, but money. And, what you can see what the Western elite are doing, they're squeezing Russia pretty hard with, the oil prices. Because I got to tell you right now, I'm going to put out another video about these oil prices. They definitely are not staying down forever, and they definitely are artificial. As a matter of fact, when you start taking that away the gasoline tax out of the price of gasoline is almost as cheap as water. And yet it's coming all the way from the Middle East and going through all these refineries and being trucked and everything else. Hey, get out of here, man. You know what I mean? That's basically what water you buy in the store, you know? $1.50 a jug, whatever. You take the gasoline tax out of the gasoline, it's almost as cheap as water. I'm telling you, that's just to hurt Russia and Vladimir Putin financially. They're playing that game, besides the sanctions. And I don't know. This guy's not going to be boxed in the corner, I can tell you that right now. So, and actually, like I said, the deal I was talking about, though, was with Golitsyn. Putin seems like, well, he was the head of the FSB. He was in the KGB for 16 years. He was in the KGB when the Berlin Wall came down. All this stuff that Major Golitsyn talked about in his books. He said that was an inner circle of the KGB that was planning all of this. Well, I think Putin's is part of that inner circle. He's definitely one of the head people in that inner circle. Has to be. That doesn't mean he's the Antichrist, but that don't mean he's like a saint either, for crying out loud. But, you know, if you want to figure out that if some of that stuff in the Bible, I'm not one person that actually believes in a lot of the stuff that's in the Bible, because it could be interpreted so many different ways from Sunday. I mean, every time they used to think the second coming of Christ was going to be in 1000 AD, they thought it was going to be, 50 years after Christ died, and they thought anytime something happened bad in Europe, it was a punishment from God, and it could have been, natural occurrences going on with the weather or something, or bubonic plague just happened or whatever. They always had, a religious reason for it. But I want to point out, though, that, the deal is that Russia is, on a collision course with the West. And the guy that's going to be running Russia for a long time in the future, because I think he'll be running Russia for, I'd say up to 2024, because he's going to win the next election. I mean, even if he's popular or not, the polls are going to say he's got 99% of the vote or something, even if people are sick of him. They say, what's with this guy? He always wins. Oh. Even if they're tired of this guy, they're going to he's going to get elected again, and he's going to be very popular. One way, on paper, for sure. Not maybe in reality. I don't know what the Russian people... Actually, you know what the Russian people probably think? What the hell are we going to do about it? That's probably what they think. Do I have food? Well, actually, right now, they're probably not doing too good on food. Because the ruble has been going down so bad. And when this guy's got no options, he's going to pull the plug. You know what I mean? So that's how he's going to be the quote-unquote Antichrist. Because he ain't going down without a fight. I can tell you right now. This guy don't screw around, man. No way in hell. No way in hell. I could read that one thing for sure. Putin is not one to mess with, and I don't really buy into the stuff with the Antichrist, but if you just say he was, the Antichrist is a popular guy. The Antichrist always looks great. The Antichrist looks like the real Christ. It looks like the big hero, right? Well, that kind of fits, don't it? Because that's how Putin's actually looks to a lot of people. I just look at him as a disciplined... I tell you the truth, my opinion of Putin, he's a very disciplined person that respects a lot of people with a lot of discipline. He's got his own way of thinking, and he thinks he's right. And I don't know, he's just going with the flow. You know what I mean? That's what I think he's doing. I think half the time I personally think half the time he's winging it. But on the other side, though, I realized that what Major Golitsyn said, and that's one thing that I got major suspicions that this whole damn thing's been planned from day one. The oligarchs being able to ride roughshod over Russia and basically rip the country off. Then Putin comes in here and saves the day. And I think the whole damn thing's been pretty much orchestrated from behind from behind the scenes by the KGB and the FSB. You know, if Major Galitzin didn't tell me all that stuff, I wouldn't have figured it. But, you know, it's the pieces are fitting to a T. You got to remember, Putin's from the KGB. He ran the KGB. He was in the KGB when the Berlin Wall fell down. He was right in East Germany at that time, from 85 to 90, right in that period of time. It's suspicious as all hell. So anyway, we shall see. The future will tell us. That's all I got to say, and I don't know. We'll find out.